They'll swear you said something you never said. They'll insist an event happened completely differently than you remember. They'll make you question your own memory, your judgment, your sanity. And the strangest part, they'll do it so smoothly you won't even realize it's happening until you're already doubting yourself. Welcome to the psychology of gaslighting, one of the most insidious forms of manipulation that exists. The term comes from a 1944 film where a husband deliberately dims the gaslights in their home, then insists his wife is imagining it. But what happens in real life is far more complex and far more damaging than any movie could capture. Because gaslighters don't just contradict you, they systematically dismantle your ability to trust your own perception of reality. Here's what makes them so effective. They don't start big. A gaslighter never walks up and tells you the sky is green. They begin with something small, something you might second guess anyway. Did you really say you'd be home by 6? Are you sure that's how the conversation went? Maybe you're remembering it wrong. These tiny seeds of doubt seem harmless at first. You might even agree with them because, honestly, memory isn't perfect. We all misremember things sometimes. But that's exactly what they're counting on. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows that memory is far more malleable than most people realize. When someone confidently contradicts your recollection, especially someone you trust, your brain actually starts to incorporate their version. It's called the misinformation effect, and gaslighters exploit it ruthlessly. They're not just lying, they're rewriting your mental records in real time. What separates casual dishonesty from gaslighting is the pattern. One contradiction might be a genuine disagreement. 10 contradictions start looking like something else entirely. They'll deny saying things you clearly heard. They'll claim you're too sensitive when you react to their behavior. They'll tell you you're overreacting, being dramatic, making things up. And they'll do it with such conviction that you start wondering if maybe they're right. The psychological damage works on multiple levels simultaneously. First, they attack your memory, then your emotional responses, then your judgment. It's like they're pulling support beams out of your mental foundation one by one, and you don't notice until the whole structure feels unstable. Gaslighters often share certain personality traits that make them particularly dangerous. Studies on manipulative behavior patterns show they typically score high on measures of narcissism and Machiavellianism. They view relationships as games to win rather than connections to nurture. Your confusion isn't a bug in their system, it's the desired outcome. When you're constantly questioning yourself, you're easier to control, and they're incredibly skilled at reading people. They know exactly which insecurities to target, which memories to question, which reactions will make you seem unreasonable to others. If you get upset, you're being irrational. If you stay calm, clearly it wasn't that serious. They've built a trap where every response you give proves their point. What makes this even more complicated is that gaslighters often don't fit the villain stereotype. They can be charming, successful, well-liked by others. They might be your partner, your parent, your boss, your friend, the person everyone else thinks is wonderful, which means when you try to explain what's happening, you sound paranoid. You sound like you're the problem, and that isolation, that's part of the strategy too. The anatomy of a gaslighter reveals something deeply disturbing about human psychology. These aren't random acts of deception. They follow predictable patterns, use specific techniques, and create measurable psychological harm. Understanding how they operate is the first step toward recognizing when it's happening. But recognition alone isn't enough, because once a gaslighter has established their pattern, breaking free requires understanding not just what they do, but why it works so devastatingly well on the human mind. The reason gaslighting works comes down to how our brains process reality. We don't experience the world directly. We experience our interpretation of it, filtered through memory, emotion, and social context. When someone systematically attacks those filters, they're not just lying, they're dismantling your ability to trust your own perception. Your brain relies on consistency to function. When external reality keeps contradicting your internal experience, something has to give. Most people assume the error must be internal because that feels fixable. Maybe I am remembering wrong, Maybe I am too sensitive. That's your brain trying to resolve the contradiction by accepting their version of events. Neuroscience research on cognitive dissonance shows that our minds will go to remarkable lengths to eliminate conflicting information. When faced with two incompatible beliefs, we'll often modify our memories rather than accept that someone we trust is deliberately manipulating us. It's psychologically easier to doubt yourself than to acknowledge you're being systematically deceived by someone close to you. Gaslighters understand this instinctively. They know that humans need coherent narratives about their lives, so they offer you one: a story where you're forgetful, overly emotional, prone to exaggeration. And if you hear that story enough times, especially from someone who claims to care about you, your brain starts treating it as fact. The isolation component makes everything worse. They'll subtly discourage relationships with people who might validate your reality. They'll create situations where you look unstable to others. They'll position themselves as the patient, understanding one who's just trying to help you see reason. Now, you're not just doubting your memories, you're doubting whether anyone else would believe you. Breaking free starts with documentation. Write down conversations immediately after they happen. Note what was said, when, and who else was present. When they later deny it, you have a record. This isn't about confronting them with evidence. They'll just claim your notes are wrong too. It's about giving yourself something concrete to hold on to when they try to rewrite history. Trust your emotional responses even when you can't trust your memories. If every interaction leaves you feeling confused, anxious, or somehow wrong, that's data. Your nervous system is detecting a threat your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. Those feelings aren't proof of instability. They're proof something is seriously off. Talk to people outside the situation, not to convince them the gaslighter is bad, but to reality test your own perceptions. Describe specific incidents without interpretation. Let others tell you whether your reactions seem proportional. If multiple people validate that something feels wrong, that's significant information. Understand that you can't fix a gaslighter. This isn't a communication problem or a misunderstanding. It's a deliberate pattern of control. They're not confused about what they're doing. They're counting on you being confused about what's happening. The moment you clearly see the pattern is often the moment the relationship has to end. Recovery takes longer than people expect. Even after you've left the situation, you'll second-guess yourself for months or years. That's normal. They've spent considerable time and effort training you not to trust your own mind. Undoing that conditioning doesn't happen overnight. The most important thing to remember is this: your reality is valid. Your memories, your feelings, your perceptions, they're real. Someone else's insistence that you're wrong doesn't make you wrong. It just makes them someone who benefits from your confusion. And you deserve relationships where your reality is respected, not systematically dismantled. Recognizing gaslighting for what it is doesn't make you damaged. It makes you aware. And awareness is the foundation everything else builds on. You're not crazy for noticing the contradictions. You're not too sensitive for feeling hurt. You're not imagining the pattern. You're seeing clearly, perhaps for the first time in a long while. The people who gaslight others count on silence, on doubt, on your willingness to give them one more chance. They rely on you believing that maybe this time will be different, that maybe you really are the problem. But patterns don't lie. Consistent behavior tells you who someone actually is, regardless of what they claim to be. Your mind is not your enemy. It's been trying to protect you this entire time, sending warning signals you were taught to ignore. Start listening to those signals again. They're not signs of weakness or instability. They're your psychological immune system, recognizing a threat. Trust that. Trust yourself. Because the anatomy of a gaslighter only works when you forget that your reality doesn't need anyone else's permission to be real.